Alright, so as we move on to De Bello Gallico, Book 5, Chapter 37, we have to remember that Sabinus from the previous chapter wanted to go meet with Ambiorix one more time to see if he can get them out of the situation via diplomatic, with a diplomatic solution. And Kodo was like, no, I have none of that. So Sabinus is going to kind of go by himself or with some other lieutenants. But with this in mind, I do want you to remember kind of the how much we should actually trust Ambiorix. And with that, I found a little cartoon from, I think this is from Asterix the Gaul, where you see this fellow down here who seems to be Ambiorix, and this big fellow seems to be Sabinus. He says, "I see that you're mixing with us has made you a cunning strategist," and it's funny because he's acknowledging exactly what Ambiorix has done to them, even though he's still trusting him. So I find that kind of funny. But yeah, remember that Ambiorix is always trying to manipulate the Romans. He can't be trusted, according to Caesar. So that's kind of how this is going to go. So let us get started. All right, let's get started with this first section. Sabinus quos in praesentia tribunus militum circum se habebat, et primorum ordinum centuriones se seque iubet. Et cum propius ambiorigem accassisset, iussus arma abjecere imperatum facit suisque ut idem faciat imperat. All right, so we have some bracketing to do here. We see quos immediately. We make a clause out of it. However, we see that quos also kind of agrees with tribunos. And quos, its antecedent can't be Sabinus, so actually this looks like an internal antecedent. A lot of fun. All right. Militum is, of course, genitive because it's from miles, and that's third declension. Circum se is a preposition, so we bracket that off like that. And habebat is a verb. However, we have an et. However, I don't actually. You know what? That et doesn't do much here. For this clause, it actually connects two other things, so it's not going to worry about it right now. Primorum ordinum, that goes together. Those are both genitive. Centuriones. Now you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And this quos is accusative. This centuriones is accusative. And so these are both accusatives. They're both actually accusative subjects here. And when I talk about quos, I mean this whole clause, actually. Okay, so the quos clause is actually a noun relative. The noun relative is acting as an accusative subject. A lot of fun. All right, so with the accusative subjects, that means we need our infinitive verb. Seque is right there, that's good. Iubet is, of course, that head verb, so that confirms that we have everything we need. And in blue is our ACI, which goes all the way to the beginning of quos, and all the way to seque. All right. And then, of course, our main clause, Sabinus, Iubet. Cool. At, so we have to keep that clause going. At, he orders all that. And cum starts clause. Boom. Propius, I see the IUS ending. I always think IUS ending, we have a comparative. And the comparative can either be neuter, singular, nominative, or accusative, or it can be an adverb. And here, since we don't have a neuter around, I'm thinking adverb. Ambiorigem, of course, is accusative, and accassisset is that beautiful, beautiful pluperfect subjunctive form. All right, iussus is a participle. We see that it has a US, and that means that we have to make it agree with Sabinus. Sorry for that arrow; it's a lot of weaving around other notes. But I'm going to go ahead and bracket that thing in blue, because having been ordered, and then he has to be ordered to do something. So we're going to go ahead and make sure it includes that infinitive obiecere, and then arma is, of course, the direct object of that infinitive. All right, and then we have imperatum facit. Cool. Suisque. Now, suis is dative ablative, or as I like to say, dablative. Okay. We have an ut. Boom, ut. Idem faciant. Faciant's, of course, subjunctive with that a ending, so we know that the ut clause is one of our either results or purpose or indirect command or fear or any of those kind of things. But then we see imperat and we're like, oh, that means to order. That means that this ut is the indirect command. All right. And also we know that imperare takes a dative with the person ordered. So we confirm that suis is dative with that verb as well. Okay. The translation. Remember to rewind if you don't get it the first time. Sabinus orders those tribunes of the soldiers, whom he had around him at the present time, and the centurions of the first rank, to follow him. And when he had approached nearer to Ambiorix, having been ordered to throw away his weapons, he does the command. So he was ordered to throw away his weapons, and he does it, so he throws away his weapons. And he orders his guys, that's the suis, orders his guys that they do the same. All right. So he has approached Ambiorix with some centurions. The Gauls were like, hey, you gotta put your weapons away if you're going near Ambiorix. He throws them away, trusting Ambiorix. Interesting choice by Sabinus. And we'll see how that goes. Interim dum de conditionibus inter se agunt longiorque consulto ab ambiorige instituitur sermo paulatim circumventus interficitur. All right. A little bit of bracketing to do here. We see dum. Dum starts a clause. It means while. We see a preposition hya and hya. Let me make those a little more clearly parentheses for you. Agunt is, of course, a verb. Okay. However, there's an and, right? Longiorque. I think that keeps the dum clause going. So we're not gonna stop there. So we have the IOR of longior is, of course, comparative and nominative. So that's fun. Consulto is interesting because you have to look it up in order to really get that it's an adverb. Okay, so make sure you label that as such if you have not already. Ab ambiorige, that's going to be a preposition. Instituitur, passive verb. Then we have sermo. Sermo is an interesting word. It looks dative ablative. It is not. It is actually a nominative, going with longior. All right, if you look it up in the dictionary entry, sermo is the nominative. It's interesting because now Caesar, you can kind of say a long, I guess even like a speech or a conversation here probably. And you know what he's done is kind of shown you how long by putting longior, a bunch of words, and then sermo. So he's using that agreement, that little bit of hyperbaton there, to show how long that conversation is. It goes from the beginning of that clause all the way to the end of the clause with a lot of things that don't agree in the middle. So it's kind of a cool thing by Caesar there. So a very long conversation. And then we have palatem, the adverb, of course. And then we kind of move on. Circumventus is, of course, a participle going with the gapped subject, who is Sabinus. Oh, sorry, I forgot to close our bracket when we were done for dum. And then we have interficitur as our main verb in the passive. All right, there's actually not that much to do here. Maybe I'll put some caret brackets around the participle. Okay. Not a whole lot going on. That's all that difficult, so I'll just throw the translation out there. Meanwhile, While they carry on about conditions between themselves, and a longer conversation was engaged by Ambiorix on purpose, Consulto on purpose, and he's stalling for time. Gradually, he, having been surrounded, is killed. And the gradually there does not mean that they like tortured him. That means that they kind of gradually surrounded him. So maybe we should actually expand that participial clause. Having been surrounded gradually, he is killed. There we go. I like that better. All right. So Sabinus is dead. He dies by the same flaw that got them into this mess, and that he trusted Ambiorix. Kota, as you see, did not go along with Ambiorix and is thus still alive, although he will not be alive for long either. But Sabinus, it's very it's a lot of karma for him to die like this. So let's kind of tip our hat to karma here for trusting Ambiorix one last time and it being his downfall. With that in mind, though, let us continue on and see what happens to the rest of the Romans. Tum vero sue more victoriam conclamant atque ululatum tolunt impetuque in nostros facto ordines perturbant. All right, so we start off with this passage up the top. We see tum, that's kind of a nice little conjunction, kind of an adverb at the same time. Vero, another adverb, then, truly, indeed. Not really doing much grammatically, just adverbial stuff. Suo does agree with more, though, so we'll go ahead and draw that arrow. Victoriam is a do. We don't really need to label that, but I'm going to anyway. Conclamant is our verb. This is not that hard. And do, verb, see a nice little parallel construction. Impetu, we see an ablative with a que on it. The que, the atque and the que here, by the way, are connecting just clauses. So we see kind of like clause 1 is like the first line. Clause 2 would be ululatum tolunt, and then clause 3 is going to be kind of the impetu through the perturbant. However, I guess you can think about the ands here kind of, let me erase the underlines here. Like the atque is connecting the first two clauses, so I guess these two clauses here kind of go together, okay? And then this clause kind of goes together. So the que here connecting the two big boxes, and the atque here connecting just the two clauses within this box, okay? If that makes sense. Now, just give me a second to erase all of these beautiful boxes. All right. All right, so impetu is, of course, ablative, as I said. In nostros, it's a preposition. Nostros is, of course, an adjective, so we need to make that substantive. I'll even write that in, substantive. And then we see facto, there's our participle, so we have the impetu in the ablative, facto in the ablative, meaning that this chunk here is, of course, an a squared in the blue. And then ordines perturbant is kind of the main clause after that. So, moving on here, we have, then indeed, by their custom, they shout a victory and raise a howl, and with an attack having been made against our guys, they break their ranks. Perturbant usually means to throw into confusion. That is because when you break your ranks, you no longer have them and they are confused. So if you kind of all run and break the lines that make up these nice little ranks, you are then throwing your lines into confusion on purpose, but you are throwing them into confusion. So if you see perturbant and think, it means to throw into confusion, that is not wrong. But when you do that to your ranks, your battle lines, that means you're breaking your ranks. Okay, so that's kind of why I translate at the end. They broke their ranks in the imperfect. But anyway, moving on. Ibi Lucius Cota pugnans interfigitur cum maxima parte militum. Reliquis in castra recipiunt unde erat agressi. Ex quibus Lucius Petrosidius Aquilifer cum magna magnitudine hostium praemoretur Aquillam intra valum periecit. Ipse procastris fortissime pugnans occiditur. All right. We start off with an adverb ibi. All right. Adverb. Lucius Cota is a guy's name. Those are both nominative. Pugnans, the participle, the present active participle, agreeing with Cota. Interfigitur being our passive verb. Cum maxima parte militum is all one prep phrase as well. Note militum is genitive, so it goes with the parte. All right, and we have a sentence break here, so let's go ahead and translate. There, Lucius Cota, fighting, is killed with the biggest part of the soldiers. So you can kind of see Cota was kind of involved with right in the middle of the soldiers, and he is killed in battle. Much better death, I guess, than Sabinus had. And then we have reliquy, the subject here. Se is reflexive, reflecting back to them. In castra recipiunt. Now remember recipiunt, anytime you have like recipio, recipere, and then se, it means to retreat or to go back. Literally to collect yourself. But yes, here we have to retreat. Unde, I think we saw this a couple chapters ago, starts a clause. So let's make sure we get that down too. But anyway, you kind of get the translation something like this. The rest retreat into the camps from where they had set out. And I think that this likely has to do with the fact that since the Gauls have broken their lines, they are now able to actually try to go back to the camps. And you'll find that they are not always as successful as you'd like them to be in doing this. But you find that some people do get away. So I think when the Gauls did break their ranks in the last part there, they left it open for the Romans to escape a little bit. Ex quibus, if we kind of keep going here, is a preposition. Note that quibus is pretty close to the beginning, and thus it is a connecting relative. All right, we have Lucius Petrosidius, the Aquilifer. The Aquilifer, if you kind of break this apart, you can kind of see it kind of means an eagle carrier. Fair means to carry from Pharaoh, and then the eagle, as you know, for the Aquila, is the eagle. So this is the eagle carrier, Lucius Petrosidius, and they're all the subject. Aquilifer is modifying these guys, or this guy, and then cum. Cum starts a clause here. You might think, well, there's magna magnitudine afterwards. That's the ablative. But since you have a subjunctive verb, there's no way we can kind of interpret this other than it being a cum clause with an ablative there being a neo-op. And then ostium being the genitive can go with that as well. So we have two things going with multitudine. Aquilum is, of course, our accusative direct object. Intra valum is a preposition there, and then proiectate is our verb. It's the action that Lucius Petrosidius is doing. So, yeah, that just kind of continues on after the cum clause there. And then we have ipse, which is nominative. And let's see, procastris. Fortissime, the superlative with an E ending, means it's a superlative adverb. Pugnans, you probably know well, is a present active participle there. And it's, of course, going with ipse, which is our other nominative there. And then occiditur, your passive verb, is, of course, to kill again. So here our last sentence. Let's see. From these, Lucius Petrosidius, the eagle barrier, when he was pursued by a great multitude of enemies, through the eagle, inside the entrenchment. He himself, fighting very bravely before the camps, in front of the camps, is killed. So you see, Caesar's just kind of giving an account of what's going on with the people running by kind of pointing out the Aquilifair, who kind of ditches his duties of carrying the eagle and tries to fight. And I think this would be a courageous act on his part, because instead of carrying the eagle, he's kind of more worried about winning the battle, even though it's kind of a lost cause at this point. And the loss of the eagle here is kind of symbolic of the loss of the legions in the army that we're talking about here. So, yeah, it's Caesar kind of being symbolic in a couple of ways. Anyway, let's move on. Illi aegre ad noctem appugnationem sustenent, noctu ad unum omnes desperata salutes se ipsi interficiunt. All right. Here we have illi. Illi could be either nominative or dative. Being at the beginning of the sentence, it's most likely nominative. But we'll keep in mind that it could be dative in case something comes up where we need to use it like that. We have an adverb aegre. Ad noctem is a preposition. And appugnationem, you see pugna in there, so we can kind of guess that that's just the noun form of fight. So it is a fight or a battle. And then sustenent being the verb here. That kind of confirms our nominative illi because this is plural now. We have noctu, at night, just an ablative form there. Ad unum is preposition. Omnes, that's just a plural, probably nominative. Desperata salute, those are both ablative, so we can kind of say that's an a squared. And then we have ipsi se interficiunt. Alright, so I guess you could translate something like this. Those men barely sustained the fight to the night. At night, all the men themselves, to the man, that's what ad unum means, like down to the individual, with safety having been despaired, they kill themselves. Now, whether this is literally or just them kind of giving up, we are unsure, but either way, these guys have completely given up. That's kind of the idea here. So whether or not you want to take this literally and say they did actually commit suicide, or if they just gave up, which is basically like when you're giving yourselves to the enemy, when you stop fighting, and you basically have given your life up anyway. So either way, these guys have given up, and it's over for them. And on that very sad note, we can move on to finish this passage. Pauci ex proelio lapsi, incertis itineribus per silvis ad hitum labienum legatum in hiberna perveniunt, atque eum de rebus gestis certiorum faciunt. Alright, this is one long sentence with two verbs, so it's actually not that bad though. We have pauci as nominative plural. Ex proelio lapsi. Oh, ex proelio is a preposition, but lapsi is actually a participle. So we're going to go ahead and put angle brackets on that. Incertis itineribus. This is actually an ablative absolute here. We again are lacking the verb to be as a participle because it doesn't really exist in Caesar's time. So we kind of just assume that there's a verb to be there. So we can say with the, roads being unknown or something like that. It's the being the gapped element there. And then you see per silvas, that's a preposition. Ad titum labienum, preposition. Oh, wait, we forgot legatum. That is his title. We have to not forget his title. In hiberna, and then we have pervenium. So it's just a lot of bracketing here. But you note that this sentence is a lot easier to deal with if you chunk things off into like between 2 and 4 words each. It's a lot easier to think about. That's a case for any text. It's just a nice situation here where we have pauci all the way through pervenient. A lot of words, very few actual like ideas. So we can almost think about half the things, even though all those words are in there. Anyway, we see atque as a conjunction with and. Eum is an accusative. De rebus gestis. Certiorum faciunt. Now, certiorum faciunt is more as an idiom to make somebody more certain. It means to inform them of something. So this is like to inform him. Anyway, we'll translate that in a second. Actually, it's about that time. So, few, having slipped from battle, with the roads unknown, or with the roads being unknown, if you prefer. Came through the woods to Titus Labienus, the legate, in the winter camp, and made him more certain about the things having been done. Rebus gestis is the things having been accomplished or done, or the things that happened, if you want. Yeah, that's kind of the end. But note that there are some Romans here, the few that did actually escape. It took them a while probably to get to the Titus Labienus. But this is likely where Caesar gets his information from these pauci, the few who do actually escape, and get to Titus Labienus. So you're wondering how they would know about all these things if everybody, even the Romans, died. Well, here we have kind of the source, where we have Caesar probably getting his information about this event of Book 5 from these pauci, these few that do escape. But anyway, that's the end of section 37. So do study this again, rewind it if you need to. Make sure to reread. That's the most important thing you can do with this. And doing this by yourself and not just watching this video is probably just as important as having watched this video, if not more. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Goodbye.